Hello? Antonio. It's Bruiser, how are you, my friend? Bruiser. I haven't heard from you in weeks. How are you doing? Good, good. I need a favor. Anything for you. You see, Antonio just happened to be a chef at a really nice Italian place. He's a friend of a friend, and I swept the parking lot next to the restaurant. Well, since he's a friend of a friend, I decided to start sweeping the restaurant for free. Hell, it was next door, and it only took me 5 minutes. I need your finest table tonight. Is that all? I was expecting a body to be moved. Sure, you've got it. What time? About a quarter to late. I'll tell the host to give you the special treatment just for you. My hero. We hung up, and I relaxed until the date. I clean up pretty damn well. Shaved, scrubbed, and looking handsome, I drove over to her place. I was wearing my tailored wool khaki-colored slacks, black turtlenecks, and a black jacket. I looked like a Bruiser-sized Steve McQueen. I pulled up and rang the doorbell. Her roommate answered the door in PJs and a pint of ice cream. Yes? Hi, is Jen here? What? I'm sorry, I was looking for address, is this the right place? Oh. Yes. I'm sorry, you must be Bruiser. Yes. Sure. Come on in. You're not what I was expecting. No problem. Lem go get her. Her roommate nearly busted her ass up the stairs, running to go get Jen. I just stood there, hands in pocket, looking around. To be honest, it sounded like a wrestling match up there. Running around, giggling, a yelp or two. Christ, what the fuck was going on up there? Finally, she came down the stairs. Wow. You beat me to it. You look fabulous. And you clean up like no one I've ever seen. Why, thank you. Are you ready? Let's go. I held the door open for her and we walked out to the Hummer. Little did I know, we had drawn a crowd of her roommates looking out through the windows. You have got to be kidding me. Huh. A Hummer? Oh. I'm sorry, I know it's really ostentatious, but it's all I've got. This thing is sex on 4 wheels. I grew up tear-assing around Florida in my older brother's Jeep. Tell me you go off-road. Whenever I've got the time. I opened the door for her and helped her in. She just beamed at me. Thanks. We were on our way to the restaurant. So, how does a street sweeper afford a Hummer and nice clothes? I looked over at her with a deadly serious look. I'm a mid-level enforcer for the mob. What? I wanted to tell you sooner, but I couldn't work up the courage. I didn't know how you were going to take it. Wow. I hope this isn't a deal breaker. Well. I mean. Really? No. Are you kidding me? I worked hard and saved up for this. Haha. You're pretty smooth, you know that? Honestly, I'm just being myself. She just looked over at me, playing with her hair and smiling that smile. We got to the restaurant, parked, and made our way to the front door. I held it open and we walked into the foyer. I saw the host brighten up. Bruiser. We've been expecting you. May I take your jacket? What a beautiful woman, kisses her hand, a pleasure to have you. I palmed him a 20 and he led us to an out-of-the-way table that was set in a small nook towards the back. It was, to say the least, romantic. Candles, low light, the whole schmaltzy 9 yards. Jen was eating it up with a spoon. Well, we ordered and Antonio brought it out himself. Compliments of the house for a dear friend and his beautiful date. You couldn't sandblast the grin off of her face. Dear friend, huh? Sure you're not in the mob? More like a friend of a friend. Well, we ate, talked about everything under the sun. We found out that we had a lot in common. We both came from lower middle-class backgrounds, both the first in the family to go to college, and we both didn't have it easy growing up. It turns out that she was a year older than I was and that she loved to dance. We sat there for hours until I felt like it was time to go. Do you like taking walks? She smiled and nodded. We bid our farewells and drove over to my place. My apt complex was close by and was built around a large pond with a walkway and benches around it. We just strolled and talked and sat and looked at the ducks. The full moon made it the perfect evening. She yawned and I decided it was time for me to take her back home. I pulled up, opened the door and helped her out. We finally got up to the porch and she started playing with her keys. Can I be honest? Is there any other way? I had the best night of my life tonight. I started to shrug it off, but she stopped me. No. Really. I've never been out on a date like this. You're such a gentleman, and the dinner, and geez, the walk around the pond. It was so amazing. I felt like a princess tonight. Thank you. I really hope we can go out again. Well, you're very welcome. And of course we'll go out again. Really? I promise. Soon. Soon. And then I tore a page out of my dad's playbook. I shook her hand, winked, and turned toward the car. I could hear him now. Always leave them wanting more. Always. We fell in love. Hard. Jim, Fred, and a severed limb. I was driving Jim around the back of the property where Fred lived. I decided that they should get well acquainted with one another and develop a stable working relationship. Alright, be sure to clean by the dumpsters. That's important with this place. By the dumpsters? Yeah. You know, open the gate, go in there, and clean between them. Okay. I'll be around front if you need me. I sped off toward the front and started working. I figured it would only be a matter of minutes before Jim would come screaming around the corner, giant raccoon in tow. Well, shit for sure, Jim came screaming around the corner. In fact, he was running so hard that he lost his footing and went ass over teacups on the pavement. Bruiser. I got a knowing look on my face. What's the matter, Jim? There's a goddamn thing back there. Thing? And. Oh god, Bruiser. By this point I was starting to get a little freaked out myself. It was a raccoon, for God's sake. Spit it out, Jim. Bruiser. There's a raccoon back there. You know. Listen. It's feeding on an arm. A goddamn arm, Bruiser. OFUCK. Are you serious? Look at my goddamn face, man. I'm not kidding. I ran as fast as I could around the back. The wind was catching the gate to the dumpsters. Bang bang bang. I got out the flashlight, took a deep breath, and opened the gate. In large sweeping motions, I bathed the area in light. And there it was. A fucking arm hanging out of the dumpster with Fred looking at me underneath it. What in the fuck? Oh god. I tried to backpedal out of the area and ended up falling backwards. My eyes were drawn to the arm and back down to Fred. When I finally stopped screaming, I noticed something really odd about the arm. I stood up and inched closer to it. Squeak squeak ahh. Oh Jesus. What the fuck is going on? I reached out and gave it a tug. The entire damn thing fell to the ground with a hollow whump. A fucking mannequin arm. A fucking mannequin arm with a note taped to it. Dear Bruiser, aren't paybacks a bitch? Jim P.S. You can thank Mark for the idea behind me. Jim started clapping. What the fuck is that, Jim? A smug grin starts to cross his lips. That, Bruiser, is how the job is done. And that, my friends, is how I knew Jim was ready. Not what you were expecting. Interludes, scattered in bits between other stories. I saw her the very next night at work. She walked out, gave me a huge hug, and had a cup of coffee with me. And as the nights passed, winter finally released his icy grasp on spring. We went out more, we hung out after work. I'd go over to her house and make her roommates jealous. She would come out with my friends and make them jealous. We went to parties and spent long weekends wrapped up and worn out in each other. I was the happiest I'd ever been. She was the happiest she'd ever been. Well, spring wore into summer. We lived fast and easy and didn't give a goddamn what anyone thought. We were two free spirits working our asses off and having the time of our lives at the same time. We were having our cake and eating it too. Bruiser exacts revenge. Being that my job was during third shift nearly 7 days a week, I didn't have a lot of time for being social. In fact, my life consisted of working my ass off, having a few too many brews in the morning with my dad, and playing video games. And that was that. My only entertainment came from an overnight radio show called Coast to Coast M. This show is one of those radio shows in the middle of the night that brings the crawling out of the woodwork. Listen to it long enough and you start to go a little yourself. Well, I had finally gotten a weekend off and decided to see some long-lost friends. We met up at a buddy's house and just started getting ripped at noon. 6 hours and 3 kegs later, we were still rocking. Well, the night started getting interesting when Dave showed up. Dave is a prick. I do not like Dave. Dave came up to me waving a rolling rock in my face. "So, it's been a while since we've seen you, Bruiser." "Yeah, finally got a weekend off. Run out of trash to pick up. Watch it." Turning to his sea donkey girlfriend, "Yeah, this guy actually picks up shit I throw down. I know, right? Haha. You're a fucking riot, Dave. I'd stop if I were you. What are you going to do?" And I swear to God, it's like he reenacted the scene from Top Gun. "What are you going to do? Garbage brushes my shoulder off, man? Don't you drive a Subaru Baja?" He then threw his bottle down in front of me. "Aren't you going to pick that up?" Then, something deep within my soul broke loose. It was as if every fiber of my being ran taut with rage. "You're funny, Dave. I'll see you later." That's what I thought. Have fun picking up garbage. Garbage man. Maybe I drive a Baja, but at least I don't drive a garbage truck. Fast forward 2 days. I went back to work. The first night was rainy as hell and I spent many hours picking up as much garbage water as I possibly could. Being that this was during summer, I let it steep in the hot Tennessee sun during the day. I then went out the next night to a property that had a Mexican place. I then proceeded to throw as much rotting beef into the back of the hopper as I could. This shit was so nasty I was dry heaving and gagging. I disposed of my gloves and hopped back into the truck. You see, I knew where Dave lived. I killed the lights when I pulled onto his street. I crept up, pulled around, and backed up to the front of his bitchin' Subaru Baja. I should mention that he had Death Cab for Cutie sticker on the windshield. I raised the hopper and rancid garbage water started pouring out of the back. I put a face mask on and hit the release for the hopper door. The entire back end opened up and vomited forth the most disgusting shit I had ever seen, smelled, heard. The stink was so putrid it raped every one of my senses. His car was buried in rancid beef garbage soup. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe.